Our players sitting down there and shuffling up. Why don't we head over to the feature match area? And like I said, we got Josh Bedell on your left. That is our mill player. And Max Hirsch playing Azorius Hammer on your right. Now, I believe Hirsch has 2 Spell Pierces in the main, which will be important. Yep, 2 Spell Pierces in the main. So we'll see if you can find one of those in this game 1, or just, kill him on turn 2.
Yeah. I mean, the deck has a very fast kill, and the mill deck doesn't have a ton of interaction. They usually rely on the opponents not really being able to kill until turn 4 or 5. The fact that this hammer deck can kill on turn 2 is terrifying. The fact that it can kill on turn 3 with consistency is even scarier.
Balloon 6, there were 77 players in the RCQ, so that's why we're playing 7 rounds of Swiss. This is round 5, as I said earlier, so this is a round between 2 4-0s. The winner is almost certainly going to be able to double draw into our top 8. So loser is still in good shape, probably has to win the next one and then single draw, but they're playing to lock up their spot early, maybe take a couple rounds off, go get some lunch like we just did.
Yeah. Can I point something to the background, though? We got Glizzy Gang versus Dogman costume.
Dog versus dog.
Yeah, the dirty dog versus the regular dog.
Yeah, it's a dog-eat-dog world out here.
Well, one dog's definitely going to eat the other dog. That's for dang sure. All right, looks like both players are pretty happy with their starting hands now. So, I take it back. When Waddell's going to go ahead and mulligan again. This mill deck needs a lot of resources to actually be able to win the game. Like burn decks, when you mold a 5, sometimes you just end up a little bit short on getting the job done. You also just need to hit your land drops naturally for your Rune Crabs and Hedron Crabs. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to cobble anything together on just 5 cards.
Yeah, much like Burn, it feels like Demir Mill is not a deck that mulligans well. So this is rough for Waddell. That said, there are some ways to cheese a game even on low resources. If we can mill a hammer early and surgical them, there's not going to be a ton of pressure from Hirsch.
Yeah. All right, let's see if this 5 is keepable for Waddell. Max Hirsch got to be licking his chops. Can't wait to get those creatures down and maybe equip them with hammer quick.
I see an Inkmoth Nexus. That's a way to get a quick kill.
I think I saw Sigarda's Aid, Giver of Runes, Inkmoth Nexus. I couldn't see much of anything else. Too quick.
Well, that's like almost everything.
Yeah.
If we got a hammer, I don't see how Waddell is beating it.
Well, we're on the play. That's step 1.
No crab, just a Dark Slick Shores.
No idea. Impossible to tell, really. I need a... Okay, if I was trying to look at that, would I want a telescope or a microscope? Probably a telescope, right, if I wanted to zoom in.
Yeah, from a distance.
Yeah. Let's fetch land. We were both wrong.
Oh, that's a polluted delta.
Who could have guessed? That's a watery grave. I know that.
Yeah.
All right, Waddell, we're going to go ahead and fetch down to 19.
They're all Demir dual lands of some kind.
Yeah. Just stop pointing it out. I'll just say he plays the land. That's a land. It's a little awkward because fetch lands really do matter in a lot of situations because of life changes and things like that. But what are you going to do? Who could possibly know from zoomed out that that's what that was? I think there's another land in the deck that also has an alternate art similar to that, and the art in the picture. Like he has it in his hand. That's not another polluted delta, I don't think. I think it's just a different land.
That's a Ruin Crab off the top, so I think we'll see that one come down.
Okay, it is another polluted delta. So we're going to trigger mill 3.
There's a Stoneforge Mystic, Pure Steel Paladin, and Blacksmith Skill.
All right, well, we can go ahead and fetch and mill again, and it looks like there's a surgical extraction in hand. So if we hit hammer, we could strip the bones of Max Hirsch's deck.
Stop. It's not hammer time.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get a tapped water grave. We could get an untapped swamp to cast the surgical for mana. He hit the hammer. He hit the hammer. Chat. It's hammer time.
And you sometimes would wait till draw step to hope they draw one. But with a Seacrum Coast as the first land played, you definitely don't want to run into Spell Pierce.
Yeah, getting Spell Pierce is devastating. So definitely smart, I think, to hit it now.
Don't get greedy. Oh yeah.
Love it.
God, everything I call out beforehand, and there is a Spell Pierce in Hirsch's hand. Everything I call out just happens. I called the Murktide for Ryan Hayes last round. I gotta have to learn to use my powers responsibly.
All right, Max, handing over the contents of hand library.
Yeah. Is that a Pierce No Paladin below the Pierce?
It is Pierce, Plains, Pierce Seal, and Spell Pierce.
Yeah.
Or Inkmoth.
Plains and Inkmoth, yeah. An excellent, excellent choice of Plains here from Max Hirsch. That is the Odyssey Thundercloud Plains.
Love it.
Hard to find. They'll set you back about $1.50, $2 maybe. But one of the most gorgeous basic land arts there is.
I just love the art because of the lightning bolt in the background. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
I own about 13, 14 of them, which is perfect for playing Mono White Humans and Pioneer.
Have you ever been one short though? Like, you ever like buy cool lands and then you start to build your deck and you realize that this is a monstrosity of standard that I have to play 18 planes or whatever, and so then you have to either buy more or play planes that don't match.
I played Mono White Humans at a tournament a few months ago, and I was waffling as to how many Shepherd Dunes I wanted to play.
You
And I
added
played and
Shepherd Dunes,
added
huh?
extra Shepherd Dunes
Uh-huh.
because I could only find 12 of my
Nice.
Thundercloud planes.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's how committed I am.
Yeah. See, I'm so committed that I just play different decks when I don't have the basics that I want.
Okay, well, let's see if Hirsch can put together some kind of offense here. With no hammers, you really need to get the Stoneforge Mystics to tutor for things like Nettle Cyst and Calder Complete.
Yeah.
And we've already seen a Stoneforge get milled as well. So another surgical on those could put Hirsch with very few ways to apply pressure to Waddell. And then even on 5 cards, if you have enough time, that's not going to matter.
All right, land for turn from Waddell. We're going to mill 3 more with the Rune Crab.
And looking at
Calder Complete out of here. So now Stoneforge Mystic just Nettle Cyst as a threat.
Yeah, there's one Nettle Cyst really left as the only real way for Hirsch to apply pressure. Oh, I guess we have Urza Saga.
Yeah, and he just drew for
Saga.
turn, so that's a huge deal. So now we get Saga down.
Yeah.
We
So
have
let's-
Spell Pierce in hand.
So we're going to need some constructs. Saga will help. We could also potentially get Inkmoth going, even with like a Shadow Spear return. That's a pretty fast clock.
Oh, land for turn. This is, I believe, a Darkslick Shores.
Yeah, that's a Darkslick Shores.
That's the one that confused me. The border is very similar.
Yeah. Mills, a Silent Clearing, and a couple others. But no other plays. What are the other 2 cards in Waddell's hand? I think it's a Visions Beyond.
Yeah, and Archive Trap.
Okay, so Archive Trap will get cast after the Urza Saga 3rd chapter.
Yeah, but it's only 13 deck damage, so not quite gonna get
There's
there.
another Crab. We need Noboro here.
That's true. This would be prime time for a Boro to
Yeah.
shine. Maybe we
And-
should be playing 2 Boro.
Well, I'm guessing that after the Archive Trap, we'll have enough cards in graveyard for the Visions to be ancestral.
Likely.
And Waddell
13 is a
does
lot.
have mana up to pay for Pierce. So yeah, making another construct before the 3rd chapter. And I see 4 artifacts on the battlefield. The Saga is going to grab a 5th. And then the Inkmoth could represent a 6th if you activate it. So
And there's an Ornithopter in hand as well.
yeah, I think Shadow Spear, Springleaf Drum, Ornithopter are our only options.
The Ginger Bee.
Oh, the one Gingerbread, yeah. I think I would just go for the Shadow Spear to make the chump blocks worse. But
Yeah, I like that. You don't love having a chump block, right, with a Rune Crab, but
yeah, I think these constructs might have come just in time, but it's really going to it's going to come down to what Waddell draws off of this Visions Beyond.
that's true. Now, it's also important to note that the Giver of Runes can give protection from blue, and so the contract can get in this turn, so Max doesn't have to equip the Shadow Spear to get in max damage this turn. Here comes the trap. Haha, shouldn't have fetched through your deck, bro.
Ooh, you got Esper Sentinel.
All right, well, you can just Visions on his own turn then.
And is that a second Spell Pierce drawn?
Yeah,
Or
but
should-
only 1 blue mana.
Ooh, maybe wanted to find the drum then to get a second blue.
You know, that's a good point. That could have really changed things. Lets him draw the card off of the...
Love that choice. Waddell knows that Spell Pierce is likely there, needs to play around it, and hey, that's one less card in his deck.
Yep. All right, Ornithopter on the stack.
Yeah.
Mill 13.
There's also so few relevant cards in his deck at this point. Like, another Saga is probably too slow to really impact the game. It's really just Nettle Cyst. Even that might be too slow to impact the game at this point.
All right, and now
Okay.
Visions of Beyond. This is still with the Ornithopter on the stack. Esper Sentinel's already triggered. It only triggers once a turn. This should be an easy draw 3 for Waddell, and he needs to try to not run into
There's
stuff
another
like-
Archive Trap.
Oh, baby!
I think that's Surgical Hedron Crab.
Yeah.
So the other 2 are not particularly good. Not sure how many cards are left, but if Waddell can draw like a fetch land,
What What do you think about surgical in response to try to get the most cards out of the deck possible, / scary things out, and then archive trap?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So maybe you want to conserve your life.
Yeah, the 2 life might matter. That's a good call.
I would definitely think about it. How many cards are about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's like 7.
That's not many left.
Okay,
so we have another crab in hand, so a land off the top could be all she wrote.
A land or 2-mana mill spell.
Yeah, as long as we can play around the Spell Pierce.
And I think Waddell actually has 2 turns here, right? Like he's still at 16. I guess these constructs are attacking this turn. So
1 construct's jamming this turn for sure, and then next turn 2 are jamming. But 1 can be chump block probably. 1 will get trample, and then the other will get pro blue. So might have 1 more turn. We'll see if Waddell can peel on him, but he might not need it.
Okay, so Ornithopter represents the 6th artifact. Inkmoth could be the 7th, but I think you'd rather keep Pierce up. You have a land drop. Okay, so that planes can be used to animate the Inkmoth to make a 7th artifact.
Well, we can also just play the Pierceful Paladin and then freely equip the Shadow Spear on one of the constructs.
So then you take the Pierce down. Which Pierce covers you against like Tasha's Hideous Laughter.
Sure, that's fair. All right, protection.
Love the aggressive use of Giver. You have Pierce to counter a removal spell here.
Yeah, and we'll pay, so this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. Waddell down to 9.
Though now a top deck removal spell probably buys you another turn.
Yeah.
The Giver down.
Yeah,
so.
now that the Giver's turned off.
But I do think Hirsch is in a situation where he has to be aggressive. You see, I think you have to end the game. And
that's a land. I think it's a field rune too, so this is just enough.
Yeah, and any land. It was 6 cards, so any land was enough. Okay,
Right.
Waddell on a mulligan to 5.
Made it look easy.
Well, he found the cheese that I talked about. Mill Hammer Surgical it. Let's go.
Yeah, that was so sick. The Rune Crab honestly put up a lot of defense too. You know, Giver Runes could have gotten some chip damage there.
That's
that was
stuff.
That was a tasty burger.
Okay, sideboards here. I'm looking at Hirsch's. I see 3 Sanctifier Invec, 2 Lavinia Azorius Renegade, 2 Draneth Magistrate, 2 Blacksmith Skill, 2 March of Otherworldly Light, a Spell Pierce, a Pithing Needle, a Path to Exile, and a Burnt Forge Tender. I certainly like the Spell Pierce. I actually kind of like the Lavinias because it shuts off Archive Trap.
Ooh.
It also shuts off the
Zero
chapter
cast
1 of the chapter 1 of Founding the Third Path.
Sure. And it makes it so they have to pay mana for surgical.
Yeah. So there's some minor disruption there that is probably worthwhile, though maybe you're just going for speed. Then on Waddell's side, what do we have? We got 2 Extirpate, 2 Flusterstorm, a Nile Spellbomb, a Soul Guide Lantern, 2 Spell Pierce, an Echoing Truth, a Hercules Recall, 2 Crypt Incursion, an Ensnaring Bridge, and 2 Baleful Mastery. I like the bridge. I like the Hercules Recall. I like the Crypt Incursions.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's about it. I wonder if, that cheese is nice in game 1, but surgical can be a liability if they get Amy Hammer down first.
Yeah.
And if I'm, if I'm Hirsch, knowing that surgical and extirpate is part of this deck, I'm trying to get a hammer down as quickly as possible.
That's true.
I can see
you
the
do want to
surgical
sandbag him with the Cigar Date, but I mean, we saw, I think, the end of last round, our 4-0 hammer time. I think it was him actually. So he had played a hammer early.
Yep.
And then used Pierceful Paladin to freely equip on turn 3 or whatever.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, not a ton of sideboarding on either side. I do think the Ensnaring Bridge can be very good. You can get around that with Ornithopter and Sigarda's Aid to equip at instant speed, but that takes a lot of setup to do. So yeah, really just impressive how interactive this deck can be. The surgicals are incredibly important. You've got that removal. We didn't even see Fatal Push or Drowning the Lock that game.
Yeah, there was no removal. It was just beat you first. It was a race, and deck damage won out. Yep. I'm just gonna make it a thing. All right, mill player up a game. Still sideboarding, trying to figure out the optimal configuration. You gotta imagine a lot of the removal spells are coming in. How do you feel about the surgicals and extra pace in this matchup? Do you want to try to cheese? Do you bring in more extra pace, or do you just surgical, or neither?
I don't have enough experience with the mill deck to know exactly what plan you want to be on, but I tend to not try to cheese opponents, especially in post board games, unless I think my matchup is really bad. And I don't know if this matchup is that bad. I think your removal spells, the extra bridges, the life gain you have after sideboard, and cards like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and the general lack of disruption. It's only a couple spell pierces from Hirsch, and you drew both of them in game one, still didn't matter. I think you've got plenty of game here, so there's really no reason to have cards like that in your deck.
Yeah.
He drew the land on that last turn, but otherwise Surgical was among the worst draws in his deck off that Visions.
Mhm.
That's the kind of stuff I want to try to avoid.
So Visions is one of the more powerful cards in the mill deck, and I think it's safe to say that it's one of the only reasons that Waddell was able to win that game on the mulligan to 5. The refresh of +2 cards for just 1 blue mana was huge.
Yeah, definitely a very important card for this deck, because otherwise I think you just don't have enough power or like mill power to do it on a regular hand. You need a few extra cards.
With players shuffling up here, drawing hands for game number 2. Hirsch going to be on the play with Hammer. Let's see if he wants to keep. See Sigard's Aid and some lands and a Stone Forge. It's got to be a keep. Waddell piecing his, and we're off. Turn 1 Sigard's Aid. Back Waddell's way.
Also has a Spell Pierce, so yeah, this seems like a great hand for Hirsch. Has a Blacksmith skill, so interesting. Yeah, it's another aid, but only 2 lands. So, like, if you run out the Stoneforge and it gets killed, you could end up in a tight spot.
Yeah, especially if you don't have another creature.
There's another Pure Steel, so now I think you're pretty safe to run out the Stoneforge.
No, I agree. The Hedron Crab also just represents like an enormous amount of pressure, and it's important that if your opponent has a crab and you don't have a removal spell for it, you have to kill your opponent as quickly as possible. It seems innocuous, but it builds up so fast, and when combined with the other mill spells, by the end of the game, the Hedron Crab has been a 1 mana mill 12 or more sometimes.
Yeah. The crab also represents this early mill that turns on Waddell's Drown in the Locks.
Yes, Drown Locks and the draw 3.
Yeah, Hammer is not a deck that puts a lot of cards in its own graveyard, so you could have potentially gone for a quick kill where Drown in the Lock was a blank as a removal spell, but with the crab, that is no longer the case.
Yeah. All right, Waddell's Way, turn 2, draws Archive Trap. Turn too late on the Stoneforge draw and flashes it to the camera with a little bit of a flare. Looks like our hand is Spell Pierce, Visions of Beyond. What do you think about the Spell Pierce? I feel like that's a little out of place.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of such a reactive card, but maybe we'd also know something we don't.
Mills 3 doesn't hit the cheese.
Yeah, it's Esper Sentinel, Blacksmith Skill, Giver of Runes.
All right, let's see what the follow-up play is here. Looks like a Fatal Push is up there. That's a good way to take out that Stoneforge Mystic. And now maybe that Spell Pierce is going to look a little better because we can potentially counter the Colossus Hammer. And there's a lot of incentive for Max to play the Colossus Hammer with the Pierce of Paladin on the table.
Crack Fetch. You know what's coming now.
Planes?
No, the Archive Trap.
Ah.
And if you're Hirsch, you didn't get trapped last turn after the Stoneforge, so there's only one possible Archive Trap if it came off the top. So this is going to be a bit of a feel-bad moment for him.
A little bit, but
yeah.
The first Archive Trap's not the bad one. The second one is the bad one.
Makes you wish you were playing Mono White Hammer instead.
That's true. Very few fetch lands in that build, but still a few, right?
No, there's some Horizon lands.
Oh, that's fair. All right, well, looks like we're going to go for the Pierce Steel. And now we have Blacksmith Skill, we have Hammer, we have Spell Pierce. We are kind of rolled up, so as long as we are patient, I think we're going to be able to protect this Pierce Steel Paladin and get to untap.
Well, we'll see. Do you want to Spell Pierce this Archive Trap?
That's a good
question. That could leave you defenseless with your Pierce Steel. Tough spot for Hirsch. Because it also, like, if there's another push, I don't know if Hirsch knows Waddell's list. There's only 2 pushes in it. Oh, and Waddell has his own Pierce to fight back here, so this is kind of the worst worst situation for Hirsch because he's vulnerable to a removal spell, and he let Waddell use his mana very efficiently here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very similar thing that happened last round, the Renin 6 plus Spell Pierce turn versus the Dragon Race Channeler.
I think this is another Surgical on Hammer.
Oh, yep. No.
Waddell kept the Surgicals in, and it's paying off.
Yeah.
Now we've got, a Grizzly Bear.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's, this is honestly, I don't want to talk ill of Mill because this is cool and this is interesting and it's fun to watch. But when it happens to you,
He
he
just
did walk
passed
by
him.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll grab it. He'll go back through when he sees he misses one. Anyway,
Path Exile came in for Hirsch. That's interesting. What
Gotta
wants to
kill
deal with his
crabs.
crabs? That's a
Crabby
rough
baby.
card to use to answer a crab. So,
All right,
yeah,
keep
you missed the
looking.
first one.
Go
But
back
it's
through.
there.
And booyah. All right. Anyway, what I was saying is if you get your only card or best card surgical from Mill, it is like falling into a pit. It feels so bad. So I can imagine that Max Hirsch, 2 games in a row, having all of his surgicals or all of his Colossus Hammers extracted by turn 3 just has to be a brutal beating. Now, enough cards in the graveyard almost, if not already, for Joshua Dell's Visions of Beyond. So next turn could be even more explosive than the previous 2 turns. This turn 2. His turn 2, he's done all this.
Yeah, I think he's done enough. Another
Another
Archive Trap. That one's a little awkward because there's. Is
Is it?
that a Field of Ruin?
That's the Field of Ruin. Now, there's some chance he wants to wait, but this is too juicy. We get to go popping. There's no island, so there's not going to be a Spell Pierce backup, and we get to go Visions of Beyond and mill 3 more cards with the Hedron Crab. Sign me up.
You also know Hirsch's hand, so you know there's not like an Ursa Saga or an Ink Moth waiting.
Right. And I think you'll be able to kill before Saga gets off after you draw these 3 cards.
There's not even any artifacts on the battle. The Saga
Right.
tokens are going to be 3/3s.
Yep. And it just takes a while for them to be made since you don't get to make
Yeah.
them on the first turn, so I have to be drawing Saga.
3/3s in 3 turns. That's not too big of a deal. But it's probably Hirsch's best draw still. So it's really, I guess Nettlesis is probably his best.
Yeah, Nettlesis could
Well,
be
there's
okay.
Calder Complete milled from the next crab trigger.
Yeah. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then, guess what? Draw 3. Maybe we'll hit,
Well,
maybe we'll hit another Archive Trap.
This is exactly how you draw it up. Wow. He found Archive Trap, another crab, and a fetch land. So he's got 12 mills up next turn. I think that's got to be enough, right?
I mean, this turn alone has
Yeah.
been 39 cards, 40 if you count the land. Can't be that many cards
Yeah.
left in the deck.
Yeah, there's like 3. So, yeah, he doesn't even need any more mill cards. That is an incredible draw
Yeah.
from Josh Waddell. Like, I don't think you could have scripted it better than that. So he takes this matchup in easy fashion, crushing Hammer, which to me, on paper would seem like a tough matchup, but the power of surgical extraction really on full display there.
Yeah, that's so sick.